Yo guys, what's up? Welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how Cubeatz makes crazy samples in the style of 21 Savage and Travis Scott. So first of all, I'm going to show you all the sample, then after that I will break it down and show you how I mixed it, and then after that I will show you my whole mastering chain and how I obviously mastered it and processed it. And by the way, thank y'all for going so crazy on the last video, I really appreciate that. And by the way, I'll drop a new pack on December 12th. It's a Monday, so make sure to stay tuned for that. It's a fire kit. The cover for that will be on the screen right now. It's called Bedroom Essentials and it will be a series of kits, so don't miss out on that. And yeah guys, let's go into the sample breakdown. So for the first thing I used Analog Lab and I used the Alchemy Bank from Noel Cast and I used this Arcana preset, I think that's how you pronounce it. And I had a MIDI from @KingYouMay on Instagram. Y'all make sure to check him out, the link for that will be in my description. And the MIDI looks like this. I randomized the velocities and obviously I can't say what the thought process of this MIDI was, but I'm gonna let y'all hear it. It's in the E minor scale if I'm not mistaken, and this is how the finished MIDI from @KingYouMay sounded like. And for the effects on this first sound, I had this simple 3D parametric EQ where I took out some of the frequencies that I didn't like. Then I had this sooth on the hard setting and the knob to 7.5. Then this simple EQ where I took out a lot of the lows and some of the low mids, and I ducked some of the highs, and I put it 38% in stereo. Then for the next thing I used the coordinate preset out of one of Noel Cast's banks again, and I basically just laid down this simple pattern. It's just an ARP, and I used the 1/2 step if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I used the 1/2 step, and I didn't even randomize the velocities, and I just left it how it was and basically just copied it over because I wanted the repetitive sound of it, and the finished ARP is sounding like this. And for the effects on this ARP, I had this 3D parametric EQ2 where I just cut out some frequencies that I didn't really like. Then this sooth again on its default settings, but I turned the knob from soft to hard. Then this simple EQ just to cut out some of the lows and some of the low mids. Then for the next thing I used Analog Lab again, and I used this Analog Hard preset from X by Nothing and Louis Flynn, I think that's how you pronounce it. And I basically just laid down this simple pattern. It's just a simple counter melody to the first synth pattern, and I just repeated it over here, and this is how the finished pattern is sounding like. And for the effects, it's pretty simple because I like the sound how it was. I basically just had this simple EQ where I took out a lot of the mids and high mids and I panned it 90% to the left. Then for the next thing I used this consequence, which is an orchestral brass or trumpet, and I basically just copied the same pattern that I had on the synth pattern before and just have it for the other 4 bars, and this is how it sounds like with the new sound. And for the effects on this sound, it's pretty simple again. I basically just had this EQ where I took out some of the mids and some of the highs and I panned it 25% to the right. Then for the next thing I had this Nami flute trill, and I basically just pitched it down by 1 and brought it into time because it wasn't in key, but I brought it in key obviously, and I let it repeat the whole time, and the flute trill is sounding like this. And for the effects on this flute, I had this for the delay 3 where I tweaked the time knob, the level knob, the cutoff knob and the wet knob. Then I used this portal bank and I used the driver preset and I had it on about 16% on the mix. Then this simple sooth on its default settings, I just turned the switch from soft to hard. Then this EQ where I took out a lot of the lows and low mids and some of the highs, and I panned it 44% to the right. Then for the next thing I wanted the sample to sound more vintage, and one way you can do it is basically just put an old crackle or like a vinyl sound in there, and that's exactly what I did. I used this Nami Noise old crackle sound and I just brought it into time and then let it repeat the whole time, and the crackle is sounding like this. And for the effects on this crackle, I basically just had this EQ where I took out some of the lows and ducked some of the highs, and I panned it 44% to the left. Then for the next thing, I used another thing out of the Nami kit, and I used this Nami Air Max perc loop, which was at 150 BPM, so I basically just brought it into time, put the mode on stretch, and this is how the finished perc loop is sounding like. And for the effects on this perc loop, I had this simple EQ where I ducked some of the lows and some of the highs. Then this EQ where I cut out a lot of the lows and a lot of the highs just to duck it more into the background. Then this simple soothe on the hard setting and this knob to 6.2. Then this fruity reverb, I think it was on its default settings. I just turned the mix to 35% and I panned it 12% to the right. And then for the next thing, I used this Banshee reacquire from Analog Lab again. And I basically just laid down this simple pattern. It's just like a lead melody for the overall sample for a second part, and it's pretty simple. I didn't even randomize the velocities, and the finished vocal lead pattern is sounding like this. And for the effects on these vocals, I had this simple soothe on its hard setting and the knob to 6.4, and then this simple EQ just to cut out some of the lows. Then for the next thing, I used the Candy plug bass from the Alchemy Bank again, and then I just laid down this pretty bouncy and dark bass line, and I randomized the velocities to make it sound more realistic, and the finished bass line is sounding like this. And then for the effects on this bass, I had this soothe with the hard setting and the knob to 9.1. Then this simple arc compressor, which is basically just a simple compressor from Waves. Then this decapitator with these settings. This for the fast distortion on its default settings, I just turned the mix to 54%. Took out some of the frequencies that I didn't really like and a bit of the highs and some of the muddy lows. And I had it 100% in mono. Then for my mastering chain, I had this Cubeatz can opener with these settings. This arc compressor from Waves, which I didn't touch at all. It's just there in case I want to compress a sample. Then after that, I had this Cubeatz walk control with these settings. Then this RC20 just for the distortion, the magnetic and the EQ. This L1 limiter stereo from Waves just to make the sample way louder. Then this simple EQ where I just took out some of the frequencies that I didn't like. And this EQ where I did the same thing again. And now I'll play y'all the sample with and without the mastering chain so y'all can hear the difference. And it's a big one. So this is the sample without the mastering chain. And now this is the sample with the mastering chain, and this is the overall finished sample. So yeah guys, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to my channel. And please don't forget to activate the bell, it would really mean a lot and it helps a lot. So y'all will get a notification every time I upload or when I live stream. And don't miss out on my Discord, the link for that will be in my description. I think we're at almost 500 members. You can send your loops and beats and even YouTube videos in there so other people can comment on it and you will get a bit of engagement. And you can obviously talk with some friends or with me and my friends. And if you've watched this far, make sure to DM me on Instagram so I'll give you a promo code for the kit on Monday. And thank you for this crazy support. And yeah guys, see ya.